any sense, they are like probably one of the most oppressed nations amongst, you know, all the world's nations, simply because they've been like, I don't know, they're all, you know, they're not human, just like you said, you know, I understand that completely. We are not human.
Yeah.
And I believe, you know, that they are, you know, guardians of the earth. They are star beings. They are the ones who would be most in tune with Mother Earth at this point. And so I've really been just saying, you have to remember who you are. You are phenomenal. You are here for a reason. You have a purpose, you know. And
yes.
And do you ever find yourself? I find myself attracting more of the crystal and rainbow children, indigos. Are you finding yourself just like all these
absolutely? Yes, actually, it was interesting because when I was called to basically get into this healing work and start assisting and leading in 2013, right at the end of 2013 is when this big shift happened for me. And I was told that by my angels, I was told that many indigo children and star children and rainbow children, I was told they would be coming to me, and to just be prepared and know that I would know exactly what to say to them when they arrived. And I'm not kidding you, maybe a couple days after that, it was during a meditation, maybe a couple days later, I had all these young, like teenagers, 20-somethings, that were coming towards me, and they wanted me to do a meditation group for them. They wanted to do, you know, play my illumination game with me. They wanted to understand about the healing. And I feel like I attract a lot of those energies. And what I do is, just like you're saying, I just help them the best I can to understand that there's nothing wrong with them, and that they are here for a higher purpose, to help them remember their soul mission, to remember what they're here for, and basically to help them to trust that they came in wired the way they are for a reason, and that they're not meant to submit. They're not meant to have others, you know, oppress them. And so a lot of these souls that have come to me, they've really been struggling. Like I would love to do a show, actually, on the show that I host. I would love to do a show just connecting to the teenagers and the 20-somethings, because this new generation, they have their own things that they're going through and their own ways they see the world. And I feel like we really need to listen to them, but we need to help them, I would say, help them kind of ground their energy, because some of them maybe aren't very grounded, and they need to learn how to kind of come into their body and really feel their energy grounded, which I sometimes have to watch that, you know, and that's why I love the nature connection, because that can help us a lot. But I notice a trend where a lot of these souls they're either very introvert and kind of feel like isolated, like they need to be away from people because they're so empathic. The energy is really intense to be around the other people. And especially if they're lower vibrational beings, it's really intense for them. But then there's also, I've noticed many of them that if they feel like they're being oppressed too much, if they feel like they're being controlled or conditioned, they kind of overshoot, and they tend to go, you know, they're at raves, they're experimenting with drugs, they're trying to escape in a sense. And so I feel like it's really important that we help them, because there's so many of them, and they want this freedom and they want this blissful life, but some of the ways they're going about it are really dangerous and not really helping them to live in their power. So I feel like there's definitely a need to help assist these souls that are very sensitive. And help them realize that they're here to be warriors. They really are here to challenge the misaligned structures that are in need of shifting. And that challenge doesn't mean violence. It means to stand up and speak truth, shine the light, and then focus on the solution, focus on the new structure that we're creating, so that we just focus there so, intently, that we create that shift, and then the other way is just obsolete. It's not really about fighting, like the ways of protesting where, there's all these groups gathering and there's violence breaks out. Mm-hmm. It's not really the way that's going to serve us now. And I feel like a lot of these souls need help. So yes, I've had many of them come to me, and they're amazing spirits and very, very intuitive and very connected. But if they're not listening to that intuition, if they're not honoring it, they really create a lot of suffering for themselves.
Right. And that is something I've really tried to stress to people, especially parents, that you have to listen to them and you have to respect and believe them. Yeah. Especially the babies, when the babies say they're not from here and that they have parents out there, or if they're saying that they see or talk to angels or what have you, and then they just brush it off, and then these kids just kind of feel lost, and that's the beginning, yes, of a difficult journey for them. Yes. So I'm constantly, trying to express how we need to listen to our children, and that we have to start believing them. Just because, the parents, or any adults, teachers, whoever, don't understand what they're talking about or understand what they're saying or believe in it, does not mean that it's not true, that they have to understand it. It is very true. And so I agree with you there. And so let's get into your art. Tell me about your art.
Well, I've been an artist my whole life. I've drawn, and I think it's one of the things that I escaped with to survive my abusive childhood, honestly, is that I would just go out into the woods and get away from the craziness of my household, and I'd be in the forest and I'd just draw for hours. I'd draw dragonflies, I'd draw leaves, trees. Like, I just found nature to be like my sanctuary. And growing up, I had a lot of religion pushed on me. My mom, and I love my mom, but she was always kind of searching for the perfect church and, like where we were supposed to be, and it never would work out. And then we'd be on our way to a new church. And I didn't feel church was a bad thing. I felt like there was beauty in some of the ritual, and I feel like there was a lot of people use it as a social connection, and that was great. But there was a lot of hypocrisy and just so much judgment that I felt was so unnecessary. And as a kid, I was always that kid, like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. And constantly, and then I was like the kid that was in trouble because I wouldn't just follow authority. And this is where I feel like these children now, like, we really have to encourage them to challenge authority. Mm-hmm. I honestly, like, my stepdaughter, she'll come home and tell me things, and my children have told me things that happen at school, and I've always encouraged my children to think for themselves and to really, not to be disrespectful to to their elders, but to really challenge authority if it's out of alignment, because sometimes, adults are out of alignment. So, basically that's something that I think is important. But, I just basically started drawing young, and I love the creativity. I just, I'm total Pisces. I'm very much into creativity, and I started painting, I want to say, maybe like 2003 or 4, somewhere in there. And one day I just was like, I want to paint. And I just started painting. I just picked up a paintbrush, got some paints, and it's interesting because the first painting I ever did is called, it's the second painting I ever did. The first one was these flowers, but the second painting I did was this self-portrait, and it was myself on the planet, and there was hands holding the planet, and I was just coming out of the planet, and I'm holding my hands out in balance, like there's a heart in one hand and a dove in the other, and it's just representing balance, and that I was a gift to the planet to help restore balance. And I painted this years ago, and I had no clue that I was going to be a healer someday, really teaching all this. My paintings often express my emotions in ways that I don't really always get at the moment. And then I'll just be looking at that painting one day and be like, wow, like my soul had something to say through that painting. Yeah. And so I feel that there was a time, and I think it's a lot to do with the abusive. I really felt my voice, like when I was healing, I felt like I had cords just suffocating me at my throat chakra. I wasn't really encouraged to be heard or to speak my truth. And so I think painting for me was important. It was helping me express these deeper emotions that were going on inside in a way that didn't threaten people as much, I guess. Like, it's not like you're just telling them that you don't agree with something. It's more subtle. But that's how I began painting, and I love painting. I just love the freedom of it. There's times where I always listen to either Wah or Deva Premal when I'm painting, and it's like I just really channel spirit, and I feel like just like as a healer, I'm just tuning in, listening, and I'm just letting myself be a channel. And when I paint, I open myself up and just thank Source for painting through me, like whatever is needed to be said, just to paint it through me. And since I learned that and really came about it with that approach, I love my creative time. Whereas when I was younger, I was very much more connected to ego, and I'd be like, it doesn't look right, and I'm tearing it up, throw it in the trash. And now I teach a lot of classes and workshops, whether it's as a teacher for painting or in a yoga meditation class, and just helping students be able to release that ego, which is actually what I'm going to be talking about later today on my show, is the surrendering of the egoic mind, because that ego is really not serving us in any way. I mean, it really sucks the fun out of everything. And so whether it's your painting or you're wanting to be a leader of some, lead a movement, or you're wanting as a healer to help a client, if you are entering with ego, it's really going to get in the way. Mm-hmm. And if we can clear that ego, which I know we can, as we clear that ego, we can really arrive and give anything our presence and be amazingly powerful because of that presence. It's not really coming in with all this information, like intellectually, which we can do if we want to, read books and gather information, that's fine. But it's really about putting that information into practice with a consistent practice. You could read 20,000 spiritual books and tell everyone how you've read them all and brag about how you can't teach me anything because I've read every book. I've literally had someone tell me this before. And really, it doesn't matter how many books you gather, how much information you gather. It's, are you able to put that into practice? And if you can't, then it's really a burden. It's like you're carrying around this big backpack of books that you're not really making any use out of. So I feel our presence is really our power. If we learn anything we're ready to learn and understand, and we can just be very present, it's just going to help everything. The teachers in our education system, you've got healthcare people, we've got our political leaders, all of them have their intelligence, and that's great, but we need to enter every meeting, every discussion, every class with our presence, with how may I serve on our heart, and tune into the vibration of the beings in front of us, whether, it's a yoga class or you're in a board meeting. If we can really tune in to how may I serve, and we were each asking this question, and we're each looking at each other from the highest place, we're going to really shift some amazing things. And I see that it's coming.